Okay, all right, great. So, hi, my name is Delia Taylor. I want to thank the Chamber leadership again for inviting me here. I am here today as chairwoman of the Livingston Parish Airport District. And so I'm going to try to give you some background information on this project, how we got to where we are today, and then, of course, how we're moving forward. So I'm going to try to answer the who, what, where, when, whys, and the hows. And so let's get started. I do have a little bit of a PowerPoint to help us with that, so here we go. So first of all, who? Why am I here today? Again, I'm speaking because I'm the chairwoman of the Livingston Parish District. The Livingston Parish Council commissioned this district back in 2016 to oversee and manage the creation and development of a public airport for our parish. The Livingston Parish Airport District, consists of 9 members who are all appointed to set terms. And in fact, we have a couple members here beside myself. Vice Chairman Dana Rushing is here, and I believe one of our other board members, Mr. Joey Sibley, is here. So we are a special parish political district that holds public meetings. We submit budgets, we submit financial reports, we undergo audits, and is all as part of our prescribed activity. So what is it that we are tasked to do? We were commissioned again by the parish to bring to Livingston a general aviation airport. What is a general aviation airport? General aviation airports includes those civilian flying aviators and services that include everything except scheduled passenger airline service. For you and I, that probably constitutes what we know as commercial service, that we can pull up a schedule and book a flight with a Delta, United, or something like that. That is scheduled service. We will not include scheduled service. General aviation flights range anywhere from gliders to propeller planes to medium-sized jets and corporate jets. In fact, the majority of the world's air traffic falls into this category. But there are far more general aviation airports than there are what we consider to be commercial airports. This is an example of a photo here. This is actually the Louisiana Regional Airport, which is located in Gonzales. That gives you just kind of a bird's eye view of what a general aviation airport might look like. Livingston's airport will be considered a regional airport. It will be classified officially as an FAA B2 facility. Now there's some technical parameters for this classification, such as the approach airspeed of airplanes, their height, their weight, their wingspan. But again, the overall purpose of a regional airport, as defined by the FAA, is that they support regional economies by connecting communities to statewide and interstate markets. Here's just a quick glimpse of the types of aircraft that would utilize our facility. You can see that the biggest guys are to the far right of the screen. The smaller guys are to the left. We fall right in the middle. So what will we not include? We will not include the big guys, and again, those scheduled aircraft that we have there. So that's what we're going to bring. Why are we wanting to bring a general aviation airport to Livingston? The number one reason, economic growth. Community airports create jobs, they generate local revenue, and they attract business to the area. The U.S. Department of Commerce reports that every dollar spent at a local airport adds another $2.53 to the local economy. $1 produces $2.53. Louisiana currently has 61 general aviation airports that serve more than 6,200 pilots and more than 3,500 general aviation aircraft in the state. The most recent 2022 Louisiana Airports Economic Impact Study updates report that general aviation airports in Louisiana support more than 10,600 jobs and a payroll of over $469 million. What does that average out to? The average for these general aviation airports, again, these are not the big guys. This is not New Orleans, this is not Baton Rouge, this is not Lafayette. Even though they may not be real big, they're bigger than a general aviation airport. Their statistics are not calculated in this number. So the average for a general aviation airport is 420 jobs, 14.1 million in payroll, and 42 million in total economic impact. Now that's the average of all. So I went back and looked at the smallest airports, general aviation airports that exist here in Louisiana, and got an average there. Because you figure with us just starting out, we're one of the small guys, at least when we start, right? So let's look at the smaller numbers. If we look at that, that still accounts for an average of 150 jobs, 4.8 million each year in payroll, and 15 million each year in local economic impact. The types of jobs and services that general aviation airport facilities provide can include aerial surveying, delivering products, receiving supplies, pipeline and traffic surveying, transport of key corporate staff, transporting of clients, transporting of supply contractors, and of course to keep all of these guys in the air, you have to have mechanics for maintenance and repair, you have to have avionics specialists, you have to have parts and service, and of course you have to have fuel to keep this thing running. But general aviation airports are not just about business. They also serve as transportation hubs during disaster and when there's needs for emergency response. They provide quick transport of volunteers, National Guardsmen, who provide humanitarian and medical services. They provide as a hub for law enforcement, to utilize fixed-wing planes and helicopters for surveillance and search and rescue. In fact, our wildlife and fisheries also is in that category. So the other thing that we've seen, so that's what it provides. We've seen that there's been a tremendous increase in the demand for aviation services as of late. Just this month, in April, the FAA released statistics that show that there is a 24% increase in the number of student pilots between 2022 and 2023. The number of commercial pilots is also trending upward by double digits. We've also seen an increase in female pilots and in the number of aviation mechanics. COVID, in many ways, exposed the ills of commercial travel. I'm sure all of us were very aware of some of the things that happened during COVID as it related to commercial air travel. Well, that has directly impacted the business community. And so more and more, what we're seeing is that individuals and businesses alike are investing in aviation to enhance their productivity. But all of this activity and economic benefits, they're bypassing Livingston Parish. Despite being the fastest growing parish in the state, and we have held that title now for 20 plus years on and off, we are only one of two parishes in this state without an airport. We share that lowly designation with St. Helena Parish. Air transportation is a critical third leg of any inland multimodal system that includes car, rail, and air. I want you to check out this map. I want you to see the blue and orange circles on the map. I'm going to use this little pointer. The little blue and the orange. The orange are the bigger guys, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Lafayette. Blue are the general aviation. What you're going to see there is that the largest section of a major intersection in our state, in other words, a major roadway in our state, the largest segment that does not have an aviation service either along it or near it is the I-12 corridor that cuts through Livingston Parish. The only other larger section of a major interstate system or highway in Louisiana that does not have an airport is the Atchafalaya Basin. And I don't think we're going to put an airport in the middle of the Atchafalaya Basin. So that gives you an idea of we're one of only two and the largest gap, if you will, The last airport to be built in Louisiana was Louisiana Regional Airport in Gonzales. That was nearly 40 years ago. And one of the first people to land on that airport, you might recognize his name. His name was Mr. Tanger. You see, Mr. Tanger invests in outlet malls. And you and I do not need an airplane to go to an outlet mall. But Mr. Tanger wants an airport to be able to fly in and to check his investments and to manage his business efficiently and productively. And that airport was a key component to Gonzales getting the Tanger outlet mall. And if you talk to our friends in Ascension Parish, particularly since COVID, that airport is booming right now. It is absolutely booming. So again, see the gap. Now, while we're lagging behind in the industry, our educational institutions have figured it out. They have recognized that there is a tremendous demand in aviation, and it is a high-paid career option for our people. Already, just locally, our Live Oak High School, which ranks as one of the top high schools in the state, and I'm proud to announce that U.S. News World Report just came out with the top high schools. All of our high schools in Livingston Parish are in the top 59 in the state, and Live Oak is chief among them. They already have an aviation curriculum in their new STEM center, which they began. Right now, there are 60 students enrolled in that. We have already talked to Walker High School, who has plans to begin a pilot ground school at their campus. That program will allow students to actually get their pilot certification, in many cases before they have a driver's license. They can graduate high school with the pilot instruction that they need to be a certified pilot. We have already talked to North Shore Technical Community College, which is located in Walker, thanks to former Senator Rogers Pope. They have agreed to begin their aviation curriculum there when we open. And if you drive just a little farther north from us, the Baton Rouge Community College has, at their satellite campus just north of Central, they have a huge avionics mechanics department or program that you can take there. And if you really want to go to the next step, Louisiana Tech is considered one of the top aviation engineering programs in the nation. So how do we do this? How do we go about the task of bringing an airport here? Well, you know, the first step was to develop a master plan to identify potential suitable locations, and then go after the millions of dollars that we needed to bring it, right? Easy, right? Okay, so here we go. So first was to identify a location. This started well before the creation of the Livingston Parish Airport District. In fact, discussions and formal meetings were held as far back as 2004. But then we actually received some funding from the state, and I think former Senator Dale Erdy is here, and I think we can credit him with a lot of the funding that this project was able to get along the way. They were able to secure funding at that time to do a master study to determine if Livingston Parish had a suitable location for a general aviation airport. And now when I say suitable, what I mean by that is suitable by the FAA standards. You see, one of the key components that the FAA requires is you have to be a certain distance from other existing airports. And if you see the map here, you're going to see a little colored portion. Oops, wrong one. See the little orange right there? Okay, so this is the Hammond Airport, that's the Baton Rouge, and then Gonzales is down here. We had to see, did we fit within FAA guidelines at a distance from those airports? So in doing that study, they identified 3 locations that could possibly serve as a possible site. This was done by a hired aviation planner. It was actually the same gentleman that helped to develop the Gonzales Airport. One was north, in the North Walker area. The problem with that site is it was determined to be too close to LIGO. course, if you're aware, that is the gravitational wave research facility that not too terribly long ago was the first to directly detect gravitational waves that were created by the collision of two black holes. Pretty significant stuff. So the FAA did not want an aviation facility to jeopardize that research project. The second location that was identified was kind of between Walker and Satsuma, north of I-12. The problem with that facility is it was determined to be too close to the waste management landfill, and sanitation sites are known to attract birds. Bird strikes are a huge concern in aviation. Many of you may recall the miraculous landing of the plane in the Hudson River in New York. If you recall, it was because of a double bird airstrike. It hit both engines at the same time, and that pilot miraculously landed in the river. So bird strikes are a huge concern. Now, I'm told that Waste Management does employ techniques to minimize bird activity, but the FAA was not convinced on that. So that brought us to the third location, and that was located south of I-12 in a section of Satsuma that was considered rural and mostly undeveloped. So no gravitational waves, no birds, it's rural, it's perfectly situated more than 20 miles from the closest airport in any direction. Just go cut the deal, right? Well, at the time, this land was owned by Weyerhaeuser and was part of the company's logging industry. And so acquiring land that is being actively cultivated for profit, well, that costs money. And so the project sat for years. And that was until 2016. Give you another look at the property again. To kind of situate it for you, Interstate 12 up here, this would be South Satsuma Road. On this, it's the same thing. South Satsuma Road would be on this east side. This is the north. Okay, again, to give you a better idea. So it was in 2016 that a wealthy developer, happened to be an aviator as well, saw tremendous economic potential in Livingston Parish and purchased up hundreds, if not thousands of acres around the I-12 Satsuma exit. That gentleman is Mr. Gary Lewis. And after he purchased it, he started hearing rumors about the airport project. And he was talking to local officials began talking to him, and they started asking him, is there a possibility, Mr. Gary, that you would ever donate land for the project? And he said, I think I would. And so at that point, the parish council created the Livingston Parish Airport District and said, go figure it out. Go see if you can do this. So, since that time, what has happened, right? Well, there's been a long list of activities that we have done, that we've managed to do and get funded, a lot of technical, a lot of regulatory things. So let me just kind of go through this list to let you know what's been done for the past 7-8 years. First, we obtained an environmental assessment of the property to ensure that no hazardous waste or environmental problems existed on the site. It met the 20-mile radius, it met a lot of things, but did it also meet that? Also, did it pose any threat to endangered wildlife? Was there a cultural site possibly there? We had to make sure. So we received the environmental assessment with no objections. We obtained full designs for a 5,000-foot runway, parallel taxiway, large apron. Would the type of facility that we want fit on this property? So we had to check that. This includes geotechnical data, soil samples, preliminary drainage, stormwater studies, noise impact studies. We had to make sure that that the property that we had, that the noise would not go beyond that. Just to give you an idea, you would have to stand at the edge of our property. The noisiest time for a plane would be takeoff. That's when the plane is at full thrust. It would sound like a lawnmower standing there for 10 seconds. But you would still have to be at the edge of our property. Okay? And then obviously to do cost analysis. We held public meetings for this process. We then secured the ownership of the 242 plus acres for Mr. Gary, which also includes an entrance road. We worked with the Livingston Parish Council to enact a zoning ordinance for the airport site to regulate and protect that land and the airspace for operation as an airport. This ordinance predates and stands independent of any zoning maps that have been considered recently by the council. And as part of that process, we held a public meeting for that review and passage of that ordinance. The FAA has recognized our airspace and has officially declared to have no objections to the construction and operation of our airport at that location. The Livingston Parish Public Airport is recognized in the state aviation system. What does that mean? First of all, it allows us to receive aviation funding and regulatory guidance. And upon opening on day one, the airport will be the first new state-managed public airport built in Louisiana in more than 40 years. We've obtained the U.S. Corps of Engineers wetlands permit for the site with no objections, and that again was reviewed by the public and by state agencies with public comment. And we've acquired state aviation funding, state economic development funding, local parish funding, and federal grants to pay for all these required projects and services. To date, we have secured more than $13 million in assets for this project, which is little more than a light bill money required from the parish. All of these dollars, particularly those for the development of the process, all $13 million that I'm giving you here comes outside of our parish through a combination of aviation, state, and federal dollars. Just real quick, a look again at our property. This is a north-south configuration. Let me find the little, again, this would be north. This side is east. That is actually the little blue road there as part of the entrance road, but that shows you where we are. This is a little difficult to see, but you may see some little colored lines that radiate out in a cone shape. If you could see that in a three-dimensional figure, that would represent the protected airspace. That, as you can imagine, as you begin to go out and go up, the airspace is protected. What does that mean? No one can come build a cell tower, water tower, skyscraper, kind of right within that cone close to us. Now, that goes up pretty high, pretty quick. We're really talking about within the first 100 feet or so. But anyway, those maps are part of the parish's public maps. They exist over at the assessor's office. Here's just another one. This is laying the other way so it will fit on the screen. Now north is over here. East is at the top. Again, you get a little bit better idea. The red right there would be the runway. This would be the taxiway, and then this, I'm trying to describe it. Anyway, what you see here would be the apron area. You see how the cones, the little dotted lines kind of represent the airspace. Again, there it is, kind of laying on its side. And then finally, this may give you a little bit better picture of what the airport would look like. Again, this would be north, this would be south, this would be east, South Satsuma Road would be here, I-12 is over here, and the runway will run directly north and south. That's why you see the runway will be labeled. It will be labeled 1836. Those are compass headings. So you get that idea. So with that, let me just recap a few points that I think are really key for the takeaway here today. First of all, this will be a public airport. This is being constructed with public funds and will be open to all aircraft that it can serve. But now, like many public facilities, there will be security, there will be fees, there will be costs, and there will be restrictions. But it is a public airport. The property for this airport was not taken from anyone, nor does the airport district have any authority to take anyone's property. The land that we have for this airport was donated to us by Mr. Gary Lewis. Now, with that said, the airport property no longer is owned by Mr. Gary Lewis. and he will not receive any direct gain from this project. He has donated to the land to the Livingston Parish Airport District for the sole purpose of being an airport. He has given up all his rights to that property and as such. And let me tell you, the FAA is a real stickler for this one. The FAA will not invest in anything that a private entity can directly benefit from this. So again, Livingston Parish Airport District had to take ownership of the property before the land could be mitigated and actual on-site investments were being made. And again, this land can only be used for an airport. The other thing is the funding obtained for this project has come so in a vacuum. And what I mean by that is that at no time has this project ever competed for or against any funding that was designated for another local infrastructure project. The Livingston Parish Airport District Board has met with numerous industry leaders, aviation engineers, state and congressional leaders, and state and aviation and FAA executives to find out what steps were needed to move forward and where and how to get funding to make those steps possible. I will tell you, I would have never dreamed to have some of the names and phone numbers in my cell phone that I have. But the truth is, I've spent enough time with the executive director of the FAA Southwest office to know that he's a Bears fan and he knows I'm a Saints fan. And we usually make a call each year to have a little jest on that. The dollars obtained for this project include aviation-only funds, federal grants, and state dollars designated for local economic investment. None of these dollars would have ever gone to a local road project at any time. They would not have gone to any other project in this parish at any time. And finally, this project is not a playground for the rich and famous. Its benefits are multifaceted and far-reaching for the people of this parish and the state. First of all, as a transportation project, the airport will strengthen the state's aviation system. The state would not have included us in their system or given us money for this project if they did not think our project benefited the state as a whole. Let me tell you right now, those surrounding airports that exist, Hammond, Baton Rouge, and Gonzales, that are closest to us, all of them have waiting lists for hangar space at their airports. We will not be competing with those airports. We will not be diluting the aviation market or industry. We will be meeting a demand that exists, especially in South Louisiana and especially along the I-12 corridor. So that's how it helps as a transportation project. But for us, it's an economic development project because this airport will bring growth and investment in the aviation industry in Livingston Parish and the greater I-12 region. It will have direct, indirect, and induced impact on our economic values throughout this parish in millions of dollars. For the 99.9999% of the people in this parish who don't fly airplanes, this project's not a waste. It brings new industry to our local economy, one that exists in other parishes, but not in ours. One that creates jobs, adds services, pays taxes, and offers our young people high-paying career opportunities. I would say to those of you in the room right now that if you don't own an airplane, I would venture to say that you also do not own a rail car or a train engine. But there's a major railroad that runs through our parish, and it brings commerce, and it brings industry, and it brings job opportunities. Yes, it transports goods and services that may not directly benefit you, but that railroad and this airport will bring investments to our people. It will bring tax dollars to our schools, to our police protection, to our council, to our parish, to improve roads and to improve their drainage. And in that way, we all will benefit. So finally, when? When's this going to happen, right? When does this long overdue, often called pie in the sky project actually become reality? As I noted earlier, we've completed a long and tedious list of to-dos to get to this point where we are finally shovel ready. The preliminary plan for our first phase of construction goes before the Parish Planning and Zoning Commission on May 2nd. Our first phase includes a 4,200-foot runway, connecting taxiway, and smaller apron. Our plan meets all engineering and regulatory requirements, and we're asking for no waivers, so we anticipate approval to proceed. We have more than $2 million for on-site grubbing, clearing, dirt work, and drainage work to begin as soon as we can advertise for bids. We have also secured additional funding in current House Bill 2, thanks to Governor Jeff Landry, and we hope to apply those dollars to begin work on the actual runway at this early next year. From there, of course, it's a matter of time of securing remaining funds and completing the project. That dollar amount does seem to be a moving target, as you can imagine, with inflation. And of course, we would hope that we would avoid any weather delays or natural disasters that certainly could impact us if our site were to be hit with that. So while I may not be able to give you a firm timeline yet on when the first plane is going to land on our runway, I can say this. We are about to take a step that honestly, 5, 10, 15 years ago, was considered impossible for Livingston Parish. Today, I'm proud to say it is. So with that, thank you, and I'll take questions.
We do want to hear your questions, but so that the rest of the audience can hear the question, raise your hand. I'll come to you with this mic, and then you can stay here and answer. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mike Gino, Premier Geotech. Excellent presentation, great development for the parish and all that stuff. What can we do to help push this forward? You know, what do you need from us as the community or as politicians or engineers or developers? I mean, what can we do to help advance this? Because we'll never get another opportunity like it.
You're exactly right, and thank you for that question. So again, I do believe we're on the threshold of beginning. We just have to get through a few regulatory steps, which are required of anybody undergoing construction here. And then we need to move forward with continued funding from the state at the state levels. I would certainly encourage you to speak to our legislative leaders there and to the governor and to others and remind them how important this investment is. It's been very encouraging. The administration does understand this, and they understand the impact it's going to have to our greater region. So I think they're on board, but any encouragement has always helped. The other thing will be this, is as we begin to move forward, we certainly are going to be looking at investors, those people who do either have aircraft and want to locate. Maybe you have a business or a service that you want to do here. It is very imperative that we get aircraft on the site as quickly as possible. The sooner we get more aircraft, the sooner we qualify to be in FAA categories that result in direct funding from them. The FAA literally has a program that pays, if you will, a yearly allowance to general aviation airports. And so that gives you the money immediately that they can begin paying to turn on the lights and to mow the grass and to do the things that we need. You know, one of the things you need to understand is if any of you have ever taken a commercial flight out of Baton Rouge, New Orleans, or anywhere, in addition to the amount of money you pay to Delta, United, American, you pay fees. You know, there's a long list of fees that we don't know what they go to. Some of those go to the FAA, and those fees directly go to general aviation airports. So when you're flying out of New Orleans and you're flying out of Baton Rouge, none of those fees have been coming back to Livingston because we don't have a facility that can benefit from that. Soon we will, and so some of that money that you're spending today hopefully will come back home to help us.
So first of all, yes, this is my aunt, so I'm not going to throw her a softball question, some of you may think. I'm going to give you a statement. So I'm the mayor of the town of Livingston, and we were working on a project for about a year and a half that was coming just south of the interstate, and we served their utilities. And this was about a $120 million project. It was a water bottling company, and we were going to serve them utilities of water. Funny, they take our water and put it in bottles and sell it. But anyway, it was going to create about 120 jobs, 180 jobs, and for about a year, we worked on this project with our engineers, with parish officials, and one of the key determining factors of them, it went from 40 sites when we started down to 2 sites. It was us and Tangible. One of the key determining factors of us not getting that business was because we didn't have an airport. So I just wanted to give that statement. Something that happened to me, she didn't even know about it, but that was something that happened in the town of Livingston.
Other questions?
Good afternoon, my name is Brian Tier. I'm a contractor from here in Livingston Parish. I'm a pilot. I want to claim its hangar at Hammond. Will there be land lease opportunities at the airport for people to build hangars and use them? Is there an FBO person in place already? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure, and what he's referencing here, you can see, when you go to Baton Rouge, maybe if you're not like me and you're rushing in the last second on, 2 wheels, if you have a chance to drive around that airport, you'll go to the terminal. Normally you get off the interstate, you just go straight and you go to the terminal. But if you take a right and even circle back on Plank Road, you're going to see other hangars and such that sit along that campus, if you will. And those are private invested hangars. Some of them, the 2 big guys out there, Signature and BTR Jet, and they have what they call FBOs, or fixed based operators, where private aviators can rent space in those hangars. They can use those facilities to fuel up. They may choose to just tie down outside. You don't just leave a plane untied or something, obviously a gust of wind, and that's not a good thing. So, but those facilities and those companies service those type of industries. I would really encourage you to check out Signature and BTR Jet. BTR Jet is one of the newest, and I think they've now surpassed Signature in activity, and the number of jets and the number of planes that come in and out. So as we're moving along, we're going to be providing hangar space for planes, and what we anticipate will be a combination of how we do this. One, there would be some hangars that we as the airport would gain funding and we would build and we would lease. But after having done this for 8 years, getting any kind of funding is not an easy thing, and it doesn't come quickly. So the smarter thing to do is to work with private entities to come in and lease space to them, and then they build those hangars and in turn can lease them out as well. In fact, the majority in Baton Rouge, that's how it's done. The airport doesn't want to deal with each individual person. They would rather deal with an investor who builds a hangar, and then that individual leases that space out accordingly. Again, there are guidelines, there's securities, there's regulations. You can't just come and go. But it does give an opportunity to get things off the ground quicker. It also gives an airport a better management tool. Again, maybe rather than being bogged down in dealing with each individual owner, they can deal with fewer and then, of course, tend to the business that they want. So we will be looking at what might be the most profitable combination as we move forward. So it's time and money is always the answer, and that will be applied here as well. I will tell you, we have already had maybe 3 mechanics contact us. We have already had 2 different people talk to us about possibly operating a fixed base operation. And again, they would offer fuel, they would offer tie-down services, they would offer even valet services for these type of businesses. So we've gotten a lot of interest. In fact, even the day that we put up the sign to say that construction was going to begin on that, we had four people contact us saying, "Where's your list? Where's your list?"
Hi, Dave. My name is Charles here. I'm a private pilot, lives in Walker. Currently, I keep my aircraft a long way from the tower away. Driving here for 4 years is very beneficial to me. I'm not a rich person. This is a hobby for me, but also for me specific family. Talking about hangar space, in front of you, just talking about the pilot. So there's a lot of people don't understand. There's 50 to 80 people between Hammond and Gonzales, just to have a place to put the aircraft. I know a lot of people are storing off airports. The business that they register are repair stations. Not to mention the fact that the National Guard, the pure pilot, you have to kind of more than most people. There's people leaving airports that are just too busy, looking for airports to do more work. So there's a significant amount of business that can be brought in here. Not to mention hangar space, fuel, whether the taxes off that. There's a lot of revenue here that, right now, I'm sure 100 people can come there. Between 25 and 100 people who just, have no place to go instead of waiting 5, 10 years doing some hangar space. So, all that.
No, thank you, Charles, for that. Again, he is correct. There's a tremendous waiting list just in our immediate region. Let me just say this. We've known for years, because we have such growing pains here in Livingston, because we've been the fastest growing, again, for 20 plus years. This industry, do you realize, is going to bring money without impacting our school system and without impacting our roads. We're going to bring a business here that actually doesn't put more traffic on the roads and doesn't put more bodies in our school system. That's rare that you would find any type of industry that would have all the positives without that negative attached to it. And then why the demand? Why is Livingston situated? We know we're fast growing, but if you look again as the crow flies, as they say, and you start going out in a 30-mile radius, I want you to think about the communities that are closer to us than they are to North Baton Rouge or some other airport. And you see if these communities sound like fast-growing communities as well. Central, South Baton Rouge, Ponchatoula. All of those are within the 30-mile, and Tangipahoa in general, all of them. So when you really take in the population, not just of Livingston, but those areas that are encompassed in that area, the population jumps up exponentially. And so when there's people, when there's population, there's greater demand for a lot of services, and aviation is one of those.
Any other questions?
I'm Brady Wax. Work for Waspy Bridges. I just want to share something with you that I found out yesterday. I took the liberty to call the owner of a flight school at Louisiana Regional. He shared with me they have 30 people right now on a waiting list that can't get flight instructor. They got 5 instructors, 30 current students, and 30 on the wait list. So he lives here. The owner lives in Livingston. Can't get an airport here, so he's got to go over there. Just want to share that.
And again, that substantiates the numbers we're seeing from the FAA, that there's been a 24% increase just in the last year in those signing up for aviation.
And one of the things Brady mentioned to me as well is that same individual said he would in fact open or seek to open a school in the Livingston Airport and start teaching the kids here as well. Any other comments or questions? If not, Delia, let's please give her a round of applause.
Thank you.